Uh, the shocks help a lot to be able to adjust these Rancho 9000s, but that sway bar is just like a necessity. And I got it out of the junkyard, which was freaky. I got one for a friend too and put it in for her. Got the 3-inch body spacers in there, of course, for the body lift. And 233C case. Got I'm on a creeper here, getting stuck on every other rock in my driveway. But I got the Journey shifter in here. I think we put the first shifter Mike made in here to test it because my ideas weren't working and his did. But wired that all up and put it in. And any shade tree mechanic can do it. Don't be intimidated by the wiring. It's just really not that big of a deal. They got great pictures on their website of how to do it, and you just won't have any trouble with it. What else we got going on here? Anything else to talk about? I don't think so. I did do the ball joint flip. I feel that it's helpful, but you got to keep an eye on those bolts. You don't want them loosening up. Last time I got in there to check them, they did loosen up a little bit, and I had to replace a couple of them. But, you know, that's to be expected. You got to keep an eye on your stuff, especially if you're really wheeling it, not just driving down dirt roads. I mean, my tires are off the ground all the time. But I want to know what those weak links are before I'm out of town and I find a weak link like this. Now, this is an axle that I broke in the back end. But, you know, in all fairness, that axle was in there for 200,000 miles. This is a good one next to it to give you an idea of how much snapped off and was stuck in my Detroit locker. My friend Tom at Journeys came over to help me with this. Such a good guy. I love those guys. They're just good people with good souls. And this piece here was so stuck in that Detroit locker that my Mac air hammer could not blast that sucker out to where we could get the clip off. And he took it to his shop and he got it out of there for me. Such a good dude. And then I put it all back together and got that fixed. But the plan is to go with chromoly axles, C-clip eliminator kit in the back end of this 7.6 rear end. They got those doggone offset pumpkin by I think 5 inches, I think is the difference. And so your drive shaft will clear your gas tank. So if you put another rear end in it and it has more of a centered pumpkin, you got angle issues back there. It's just you can't just grab one out of a truck and throw it in here like we would all like to. So we'll see how it goes, but we'll have more videos in the future. But that's where we're at right now, and hope. Oh, there was one last thing. God, I'm doing motor mounts here next week, and this is kind of hilarious. But here's your stock motor mount, and you look at this gap that everybody's complaining about here. Hopefully the sun's helping you, but you see that gap there between the rubber and the inside of the clamshell, and you're like, okay, obviously that rubber is going to smush around in there and eat up that gap, and then you got a sagging motor again. So the guys were saying that they're using the doggone, I always forget the name of this material for the life of me. Constantly, polyurethane. I always forget that. But anyhow, they put these in, and the vibration isn't supposed to be so bad. Plus, if you have a body lift, I think that'll eat up some of that vibration too. So we're going with that. I did put these polyurethanes in my Jeep Cherokee, and they were a lot harder. You can dig your thumbnail in this one. This is from Prothane. The ones I put in my Jeep, they were as hard as a rock. And I did feel some vibration, but it was a unibody Jeep too. So what's kind of interesting, and I don't know if every brand of polyurethane is going to have this, but you can see that when it indexes here in the clamshell, this side looks fine, but on the other side over here, there's too much material. They made the polyurethane one too big. So I'm going to have to cut and shave some of this off here, probably a 1/4 inch, to get this to fit into this clamshell. And then I'm going to try to do it to where it will fill this gap. You know, maybe I can just shape it to where it'll fill that gap real nice. and there won't be any gap anymore. So we'll see what happens there. I'm also going to put a 1/4-inch shim plate underneath here. Now I know that's not going to lift the motor straight up a 1/4 inch because the mounts are at an angle. You know, they're like this. If they were like this flat, yeah, it would lift your motor a 1/4 inch, but they're literally like that. So I'll probably get, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch of lift, but every little bit helps to get those steering bar as high above that harmonic balancer pulley as possible, because once these sag, they touch. When you go off-road and you have all this traction that I have and off-road ability, it flexes your steering even more. Therefore, it's going to rub even easier. And I got to max out with my clearance here. Sorry, we got a FedEx truck and a Harley at the same time. So yeah, I want to be able to have as much clearance as possible because it's grinding really bad right now. And my oil pan is real close to my axle, of course, too. I'd like to get a full inch of clearance there if possible. So we're going to see how that's going to work out. Truthfully, if you take the upper motor mount and you rebuilt it, you could get that inch of clearance real easy. But we'll see. If that's necessary, I'll do it in the future. On the inside of the van, I don't know if we talked about this, got the spare battery, the power inverter, DC TV, fishing poles. Other than that, it's stock. I didn't get all carried away with building stuff in here because I'm up always doing something different. You know, one day I'm hauling something, the next day I'm camping. So I just set it up for whatever trip I'm going to take. But it sure has been a good vehicle, super useful, way more useful than my Jeep Cherokee. Not, you know, doesn't have the off-road ability of the Cherokee. The Cherokee was insane with lockers front and rear. I mean, I built that thing and it was just nuts. Half the time I was wondering if I was scared to death or having fun still. But for getting out of town, towing my boat, got 2 boats back here. Got the Tracker Deep V in the back, and then my smaller boat for the smaller lakes here. It's great for that. It's great for camping. All your stuff is locked up inside. You still have 4-wheel drive. It's not too big to where it won't navigate narrower trails and so forth. I mean, it is just awesome. Absolutely love it. But got to find those weak links before you're out of town, and finding the weak links, because I do not want to find them out of town. So we'll have more videos of it off-road, really off-road, twisting it up, getting the wheels off the ground, and see what snaps and what doesn't, and how well it can actually perform. So more videos to come. Take care.